Darren Jaime here with you. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching The Bronx, Your Voice, Your Vote 2008. And we are joined by our political contributors. And as we talk now, we're talking about voter turnout. As we heard in the top of the show, high numbers are expected. What does this election mean in terms from your perspective?
Well, it's an enormous opportunity for change in this country, positive change that Barack Obama has talked about. We've just gone through 8 years of a Republican administration, which has not been good on the cities, has not been good on the suburbs, really has not been good for this country. So I'm expecting, and I'm really hoping for a huge turnout on Tuesday. Large turnouts are good for our democracy. Whether they vote for a Republican candidate or a Democratic candidate is really irrelevant. It's important that people come out to vote because it's their opportunity to have a say in how the government's going to operate for the next 4 years on the presidential level.
Mariah.
I agree completely. Large turnout, especially in historic numbers, is good for our democracy. But what's even more important is turning the turnout into community activism. And what Obama has shown is that he can really get people to be engaged with their neighbors, with their community. I mean, voting is the end of the process. The discussions, the caucuses, the deliberations, that is the process itself. We need to rebuild that, and Obama has shown he can do that.
I think it's terribly important to go out to vote, and I think we're going to have record numbers this time around, especially among the youth. There's this, definitely a lot of enthusiasm for Obama, especially among the youth. At the same time, again, I'm going to speak as a Latino, and I will tell you that I don't think the enthusiasm is there on the part of the Hispanic community to turn out to vote this time. I mean, I encourage them to do so. It's very important for all of us to vote. But, why a lot of Latinos are saying, I was invisible to them during their campaign, I'm going to be invisible on election day.
Mm-hmm. What Latinos can we look for on the up and rise in terms of seeing them run for as a future candidate for president? Is there somebody that we're not paying attention to?
Of course, Bill Richardson already ran this time around in the Democratic Party. This is the governor of New Mexico, and he's always, very high up there among the people who are considered. But let's see what happens with the first black president first, and then Latinos eventually will get their shot. I think, frankly, I've heard a lot of Latinos say this. It's good for us because somebody's opening the way for a minority, and then we may get our shot too.
Mm-hmm. And history is definitely the major thing that's going to be said. Whether or not you're going to have the first black president, or you could have probably one of the oldest presidents in history, and the first female vice president. So either way, this election is going to be historic, and we definitely know that people are going to be coming out to vote. What things should we be watching out for on the election day in regards to voters?
Well, you have to watch out for the long lines. We're always concerned about that, especially in the state of Ohio, where there seems to be a history of long lines and people leaving those lines and not voting. So it's up to the state election commissions and the local county commissions to make sure that they're prepared for that. They also need to make sure that near the end of the evening, if the lines are too long, that somebody's going to go into court and extend those hours to make sure that every American who's online, every American who wants to have that opportunity to vote, gets that opportunity to vote.
And that's why it's so important that some states, and I'm sure you want to talk about this, shouldn't we have early voting
Absolutely.
in New York and in New Jersey and all this? And the states that do have this advantage right now, a lot of people are already going out to vote, and I think it's wonderful.
It's a wonderful thing to see, all of the Americans out there, some of them for hours, some of them in the rain the other day in Georgia because they want to cast their vote early. Perhaps they can't vote on November 4th, they're working the night shift, it's more convenient, but they have their vote out of the way and they can move on and do other things. It's a wonderful thing to see.
What does it take, Bob, to do that here in New York?
State legislation, the state legislative, the Assembly and the Senate need to get together and put a bill in, and I would be shocked if that didn't happen this session coming up. Because early voting has proved to be very successful across the country.
And Mariah, I heard you wanted to even extend it out a little bit further.
Yeah, voting should be a holiday. Either Tuesday as a holiday, or a weekend, or an entire week. I mean, this is what India does. They have, I think, 1 or 2 weeks of voting. That is what a democracy should be like. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your job and your work to go vote. But let me make one very important point. I think this is critical for other states, especially swing states. In 2004, a lot of voters went into polls with electronic voting booths and saw that when they voted for Kerry, it showed Bush's result. This was covered in John Conyers' report to Congress in January of 2005. We need to make sure that when voters go to the polls, if the machine says something different than what they selected, they need to report that right away. report whatever fraudulent signs you see, report whatever shenanigans you see, whatever dirty tricks you see, because the right to vote is sacrosanct. It cannot be messed with. And if we have voting lines that are long, that's one thing that can be fixed. But if the machines themselves are messed up, that is what is critical. So we need to focus on that more than anything else on election day.
I'm not too worried about cheating. The people who cheat are a very small minority, and they're not going to influence any election. And I get terribly upset when I hear people talking about, oh, we got those illegal immigrants in this country, and they're all going to try to vote. Come on, these people are scared to death. Do you think they're going to take the risk of going to vote? That's absurd. So I'm not worried about Tuesday.
Well, people aren't worried, but we are going to be watchful. And we want to thank all of our political contributors for sharing with this on Your Voice, Your Vote 2008. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this election special. We hope that you've enjoyed it, and we want to thank our experts for coming in, for all of the staff that worked to really put this show together. We thank them as well. I'm Darren Jaime, thanking you for joining us, and don't forget to get out there and vote. We can't tell you who to vote for, but we can encourage you to go out and vote. For all of us here on this show, we thank you for watching. Until the next time we meet, stay safe and exercise your right, because many died just so that you could have that opportunity.